a very surprising event preceding the regular class. And I'm so much so carried by the words of Tarun, explaining the two type of behaviors of the life force particle. Is it? I didn't get it fully. So Tarun, will you please continue? I didn't join earlier. How long this was going on?
Yeah, this is the regular Saturday class that I have where we do the physical exercise followed by a meditation. Today we did a 9 center meditation. And then depending on the question. So the question asked during the session was, how does the biomagnetic force interact and operate with the 5 different koshas that we have? So I was just explaining what is biomagnetic force, right? What is magnetism first, and then slowly getting into biomagnetic force. And why Maharishi coined it biomagnetic force, because it is generated by a living organism. But when this biomagnetic force, through the 9 center meditation that we meditate, we become this Vishwarupa state, which has been explained by different concepts. I was explaining the Kali's dance with 1,000 hands and a big red tongue flowing down, which terrifies many people, but it's actually the representation of our 5 koshas in a beautiful 5-element form, where the deep, dark nature of the goddess is to absorb our karmic energy and dissolve in itself, and how to do that in 1,000 ways. So that's how I was just giving an analogy around how that's been represented in a Kali form. People generally get terrified, but it's actually when you start looking at it, you will start loving more and more into the form of how compassionate somebody can be towards us. So that's how I was trying to explain the whole idea of biomagnetic force going into life force particle, where there's an attractive and repulsive force that happens, and some of them goes into us, some of them gets dissipated through. And I got transcursed into my experiments around how I tried to fit this into a normal bell curve, and ended up showing the mind data that I have right now as how my mind, through the instrument that I use for measuring, incrementally works from 100. I assume the base unit as 100. And throughout the day, every hour, when I start measuring my brain waves in different forms, how it started fitting into a bell curve. But unfortunately, because that's randomness is what is introduced in these motions, whereas the life force and life force particle doesn't have randomness. That is, as Ashwinji pointed out, it's not randomness. I did see that the curve, bell curve, actually become a circle slowly, but I don't have enough data to back my experiment. So this is where I'm working on, and that's the reason why I'm struggling to present it in the bigger forum, because I've not got to a point where I can show how this, what we seamlessly think as a random process, is actually not random, but it's in a circle. And then when the life force particle gets centered towards us, we get more attracted towards the center, and the particles around us, which dissipates slowly, gets into this universal field. And where it has 2 forms of forces, where it attracts and repels, how the expansion goes out as individual particle out, and the life force particle merges into our genetic center. So that's how I was trying to. It was just a question that about how the 5 bodies work and how the life force particle and the magnetism works together. So that was where I was trying to explain things. And yeah, I got too excited and showed my graph as I was still working on it.
Very nice. I just joined when you said that it is not working in random life force particles, but it ends up with a circular motion.
Right.
So let us continue from the circular motion. And this is the circular motion of life force means it is the fundamental energy particle, isn't it?
Yes, Ayya. Yes.
So this energy particle is self-rotating, rotating on its own axis, central axis. And this is taken by the adjacent energy particles. They couple and couple, further couples. So a mass of energy particles, they all spin around themselves and around others. They spin singly as well as a two together and n number of times the two. So which results in life force particle or wind. So this goes on, and if you look into deep into this energy particle and the life force particle wind, the energy particles are free, they spin, and the spinning force decides which one will stand in the center and which other energy particle will orbit around it. And in this way, you get the life force particles, and the life force particles, when they are in the field of the genetic center, they go around the genetic center. They take a particular orbit and go around in it. So, am I right in saying this, Tarun?
Yes, Ayya. I measured it through my thought process because I can't measure the life force particle through the instrument. So each thought that comes up and goes during the peak hours, it goes high, like between 8 to 4 when I'm operating and working. When I'm sleeping or in meditative mode, those brainwave actually is not too much. It's very less, and it converges back down to me.
Are you a surgeon, Tarun? You are operating.
Sorry, Ayya?
You said when you were operating.
Yeah, that's usually the life thing, like going to office, working, the regular
Yes.
work that we do. So between 8 to 4
Being
p.m.,
a doctor,
we have to do that.
being a doctor myself, when you say operating, I wanted to join you along with me. Okay.
Yeah, being a mathematician, I don't look at the body dissection as operation. I look at what I do on a daily basis as operation. Sorry. Yeah, that's my daily day-to-day routine work. Yeah.
Though our operations are different, we are now concentrating on the operations of the life force particle.
Right.
And the energy particle. So there is no reference book for what I am telling, and it is not recorded as I am explaining to you, I suppose. Is it recorded anywhere? Ashwinji?
I'm sorry, what are you saying? What is being recorded? I was a little bit dragged into further thinking of what Tarun was saying, and I missed what you said. I'm sorry.
Right. See,
because in Tarun's because what he Tarun is measuring the thought process. and obviously the origin is in the life force, and further we go deep down all the way to the consciousness. The thought process that Tarun is measuring, and he did say in his talk that something that we call experience cannot be expressed in terms of words or any mathematical functions and so forth. So the thought process that is being measured is it has the emotional part of human being or the life, in an indirect way, because thought is a cumulative effect of the karmic impressions, the reactions, and also the emotional part of it. So somehow, if we can separate out the emotional part, or how we feel, or how we experience part out of that, then you're separating the physical aspect, like the physics part, that action and reaction. Okay. So, but the action and also has the emotional part of it, or a feeling part of it built into that. So somehow, if you can separate out, then it becomes a very nice and clean representation of how the life force emanates from our genetic center, and how we react with the whole world, or our surrounding. So I got stuck into that thinking, and I missed what you were saying, Doctor. I'm sorry.
No, that's just so much so interested when Karan said that the life force particle was having a elliptical. Is it, Tarun? What was the form?
It was converging from a random out to an elliptical form all the way to a circle. So that's the convergence that it happened.
So this elliptical form, a round form, these were attracting my attention, and so I said that essentially the energy particle, or a divine death particle, what Maharishi refers to, is a self-spinning entity, and the speed of the spin of the energy particle is decided by the field in which it is there. And so, since the field, the space is not, you should take my words, it is not uniform. In some areas, it is having the varying kinetic motion to a higher degree, and there the space gets crushed up to produce dust forms which also spin. The dust particles, the energy particles, are the fundamental particles of Maharishi's evolutionary concept. And these energy particles are nothing but space. So they contain all the properties of space, and though we feel, we see, well, because of the spin, the energy particles are separate from the space, the regions. The connectivity is there. If you allow me to say, the sushumna of the energy particle is on one side, it behaves like north and south poles, and it is in continuity with the space. So what happens in the space is reflected in the energy particle, and the energy particle sustains. It draws the energy from the absolute space surrounding self-compressive pressure force, and it is converted into spinning force of the uh, energy particles, and they spin continuously as long as they are in that field. The space is not of uniform nature. There are ups and downs in the space. In one area of the space, it remains totally static. There is no activity at all in the absolute space, which is the maximum. Surrounding this dynamic portion of the space, which is the universe, surrounding that, you have absolute space, which has the properties of changeless, static, ever present, pervading all over, and is a continuous space. This nature of the space is disturbed in the stages of evolution, which we are considering about the energy particle life force, etc., etc., etc. And my difficulty is, Maharishi has given the outline, but he has not given all the points which I am telling you now. I just thought of it, and they have come through me, and I am expressing it. And I am neither a physicist nor a mathematician to put it in any other form other than what Maharishi has said. And whenever I just contemplate on this entity, that drama goes on, and I'm able to see the life force particles starting their journey in the biomagnetic field, in the field of the genetic center. They arise from the genetic center and go round and round in an orbital fashion. And the orbit is not uniform. When it is very close to the center of the genetic center, it is almost circular. And when it goes headwards, cathalically, it becomes elliptical. And the different life force particles take different orbits. The orbits are covering almost 360 degrees, and their axis also changes. Some are confined to the 2D picture. They start from the center, goes to the top, and comes around to the bottom and enters like that. Some of the life force particles, they spin in a different degrees. From, if you take north and south pole as a 0 and 180, they span from 0 to 180 and 180 to 0. So they give a 3D picture of our own body. So it is represented like that. And what is deciding the path of the life force particle or life force is only the nature of the field of the genetic center. When you are with all the 5 sheets, the Panchakoshas, they move differently. When this is abnormal, the Panchakosha is not same all over. From genetic center to head, from genetic center to feet, it is the longest. From the genetic center to the sides of the body, along the center of the genetic center, it is the shortest distance. The waist is the shortest distance. Not for all. We are breaking that now when we have a big waist. So it is according to the angle in which it is spinning and going round in the biomagnetic field or the field of the genetic center. So when I am telling all these things, where do I quote it from is my difficulty. I have not read this in any form, any presentation. Maharishi has not given all these details in toto. And above all, I have not read thoroughly what Maharishi has said altogether. If you look into Ravi Prakash, who is plasma scientist, who was taking charge in the last 2 classes, he has taken so much of Kaikalpa songs from Maharishi's Jnana Kalanjiyam. And I was I felt ashamed for not going through all those things. But to explain my situation, I was getting up to answer the call of the patient, maybe 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. or 8 a.m. Whenever they call, I go and attend. And right from 8 o'clock onwards, I attend to the Medical College Hospital, Coimbatore. And that was, I go by 8 o'clock and return from the medical college by 4 to 5 p.m. And then, funniest thing, my practice starts at that time from 5 a.m. to 6, 7. I visit the nursing homes or the hospitals, private hospitals, and come to my clinic by 6 o'clock or 6:30. And this goes on up to 10:30 or 11, sometimes still more, until the last patient is there I have been seeing. So I used to say that I was working for more than 20 hours a day. And at this, in between this tight schedule, I don't know how I was drawn to Maharishi. And whenever I was in front of him, he used to call me to his side, and he was always keeping me by his side, whether it is in the class or whether it is in his room, wherever it is. I was spending most of my time in his company at his request. Whenever I was in Adyar or Coimbatore or Chennai, wherever I was. When I was in the vicinity of Maharishi, he always calls me and I was with him. So I have not read any of the uh, publications made by Maharishi, and I have not been reading the vast literature he has given on a regular basis. Every now and then I was going through in some places here and there. If knowing this for myself clearly, I have great hesitation in putting forward what I am telling, which is not there in any of the books. So when I am telling something totally, I suppose that it is new, and this is of the material published. So I have a lot of hesitation and uncertainty whether I am, according to Maharishi, I am proceeding in the right way. That's why I ask for confirmation from the audience every now and then. So now I said that we have been. I was operating as a doctor, and seeing the patients, going to the theater, coming out of it like that. And when Tarun was telling his operations of recording his brain wave, I said, we both are referring to the operations, but both operations are different. And yet they also conform to a standard pattern. Is this this is the situation, Ashwin ji, and what is your comments on this?
No, you're right. And the way I think, you said that you used to be in so close vicinity or proximity of Swamiji, and you have not read anywhere, or you didn't find anything anywhere in the literature. And this reminds me of what Swamiji had told me one time. And that's probably is happening to you, and you feel that the knowledge is coming out of you. Swamiji used to say that all you have to do is tune yourself to nature, and the nature will reveal everything to you, all the knowledge, all the information. So when you are so close to Swamiji, probably you are so tuned into Swamiji for so long and for so many times, that even though he did not write in literature, even though he did not tell you verbally, but somehow you tuned with him and with the nature, and that nature and the Swamiji is revealing to you. That's all I can think of.
See, what I infer from my intuition, it is inner vision, it is expressed in the with the knowledge what I have acquired as a doctor. So I'm able to put Maharishi's principles in scientific terms, in anatomical terms, in physiological terms, and in pathological terms, like that.
True.
So, but who is there to say okay to me? In a way, I am happy to have you, Ashwinji, with me to give me some encouragement to proceed. Yes.
I think it's you who has to verify. because you are experiencing it, you are experimenting it, and you are revealing it to the world. So you verify yourself, and once you say that, obviously, if that once you verify it's true, then the world will automatically start following you, because you have the spiritual knowledge as well as the knowledge from the allopathic science. So both combined together uh, makes it more valid, to the world too. So
that is the supposition that gives some boldness to proclaim, to tell. Anyway, it's okay.
yeah, I mean, if I go out and talk about pathology or ep, epidemiology or whatever you call it, people will not listen to me more than they listen to you because you are a physician. You know the subject. So that's how. So once you verify, I think people will automatically believe it because they trust you. They trust your knowledge. They trust your revelations. That's all I can say.
Okay. See, even it is when I was thinking about sexual vital fluid, I was I was not having sufficient vocabulary words to explain the nature of SVF. Maharishi also said it is neither solid nor liquid nor gas. It is all put together. And so he coined the term fluid to denote this nature. But how many people will understand the fluidity of the fluid and how to put it in a scientific forum? But right at that moment, the plasma has come to me. I learned about the plasma for the first time from Ravi Prakash. So I was impressed by the similarity of the sexual vital fluid and the plasma nature. So then I was very happy that I can use SVF as an example of plasma. So it is present all over the body, right from the day one of the union of egg and ovum, and it is present throughout the fetus, wherever it is. In all the cells it is penetrating, in all the intracellular space it is present, it is pluripotent. The SVF is pluripotent. It is digesting the food we are taking. It is separating the vital components, and it is acting on these components and making an alchemy to produce new compounds which are required for the body in the cell. And it is building up, it is uniting the cells together. If the biomagnetic wave is and the life force particle are two together, they thread the cells to tissues and organs and body. So this nature of sexual vital fluid, it cannot be explained in any other way other than calling it as the plasma. Now, little bit from the audience members here who would like to elaborate on what I said.
So more than saying of SVF is an example of plasma. We can say it as plasma is an example of SPF because SPF has more operations than plasma as it is, in living organism. It is working as a consciousness also more than plasma. And it could be, as last week Carlos sir said, it is with the fifth element, we have the Bose Einstein condensate. That could be also the state of SVF to some way.
It is. I feel intuitively the state of both SVF and plasma is one and the same. And this is a condition when they want to produce plasma in the laboratory, they use very high temperature. But in the body, it is at normal temperature. In the normal temperature, it is elaborated, it is produced in the body as the seventh dhatu. And it is doing all the work, the miraculous work. If the cell wall is damaged, it produces the cell wall. If the cytoplasm is lost, it replenishes the cytoplasm. If the mitochondria is damaged, either it eats away the mitochondria or it repairs the mitochondria. It produces a new mitochondria. All sorts of actions which one can imagine is taking place within the body. And it is initiated, sustained, completed by the sexual vital fluid. It is the sexual vital fluid which builds the body right from the one cell zygote stage to the present adolescent age where they become sexually mature. So this activity, independent of the testis or ovary, independent of the semen or the sexual secretions in the female, it is working. And what is important point to note is even the egg or the sperm has to be suspended in a medium of SVF to maintain its liveliness and ability to pass through, crossover from the male to the female to reach the ovum. So that process is fully helped. It is designed and divine and perfected by the presence of SVF around the sperm. The field around the genetic center, when the union between the male and the female takes place, both the genetic centers are side by side, and the field of SVF in both put together is a very large area, and the SVF is the major denominator. Just like the life force particles, energy particles, and the biomagnetic waves are suspended in space, absolute space. This SVF is filling the space there and is the media in which all the body tissues are growing and maturing and performing their functions. So it is the medium of SVF which is responsible for the growth and maturity of the individual. And when it is formless, when it is energy to perform these multivarious functions, to my little knowledge, the plasma is a good example to say that all these functions are performed by SVF in the body. So, Dr. Ananda,
Consideration of consciousness in terms of plasma. Is there any?
what is that? Please repeat.
Is there any relation with the plasma? How it is connected with the consciousness?
We all forget that consciousness, where from it comes. It is one of the four basic characters of space. The plenum, almighty force, and order of a function, the consciousness and time. All the four are inseparable parts of absolute space. So they are put together, the consciousness and the mighty force of Almighty, together with the inexhaustible source of energy, surrounding self-compressive pressure force, the plenum, and the time added to it is absolute space. And so when we talk about consciousness, we talk as though consciousness is a separate entity. It is not a separate entity. It is the character, it is the function, it is the way the absolute space behaves. And it is functioning, and we are trying to understand that. And for our understanding's sake, Maharishi has divided into four entities. But it is one and the same. You cannot separate them. Ananda?
ஐயா வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
Ramadan.
Nice discussion, ஐயா. I approach this in a kind of just for my own understanding and my own kind of knowledge so that I can apply in my practice. How I understand this is, I mean, we know what is sexual vital fluid. There is no doubt in it. It's quite clear. It's all existing one, which is the basis for the function, right from semen, sperm to ovum to a grown-up individual, everything. But we want to search something equivalent to sexual vital fluid in the environment. That's where I think the plasma is quite helpful, because the plasma is the state which is not a solid, not a liquid, not a gaseous one. It has the fluidity component, and it is the state which converts and has got a lot of potential for energy, everything. So in one way, I'm quite happy to accept that if somebody is searching for environmental or external equivalent of sexual vital fluid, which is the essence of every human being, yes, a plasma may be a good example to correlate. But having said that, I'm very satisfied with the sexual vital fluid, its fluidity, its functioning nature, its maintenance nature, its importance behind the consciousness and existence, its link to the genetic center, biomagnetism, vitality, which links to all our Maharishis, exercise, Kaya Kalpa, meditation, everything. I'm quite satisfied with the discussions happening, Ayya. வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
So I'm still not able to get it. I mean, we are talking in generalities. So what is, when we say plasma in the human body, what is the equivalent of it in the universal consciousness? I realize it is all one and the same, and we have understood it to turn four fragments of understanding.
One and the same. It is one and the same. When it is present outside the biomagnetic field or the field of the genetic center. It is universal magnetism and universal energy, plasma energy. It is present, and that is not a separate part, it is an integral part of the energy mechanism of the universe. Going beyond the electron, proton, neutron, and also the subatomic particles, known subatomic particles. I just wonder with what foresight Maharishi said. Paramanu is something which cannot be divided further. He didn't say that this is Paramanu. Whatever you think that this is indivisible, when your knowledge is expanding, when your gadgets are new and more powerful, then they divide we have seen in the history how they have divided the atom and saw the electron, proton, neutron, and then the quark and the meson and the nason, uson, boson, and all sons. And even at that time, Maharishi said, this is not the final. When we reach final, that cannot be divided further. So at that, presently we are holding the energy particle as the fundamental point to start with.
So
wherever it is, it may be present outside the genetic center space or in the universal space. So plasma will be present both within the living beings and outside the living beings also.
So, so two things. One is, so two things. One is the plasma and the human body. When I take a little bit of scientific inputs here on the medical aspects of it, then I think probably I can say we are in a position to start fractionating the plasma and dwell into sub aspects of it and so on. So probably, as you articulated, at some point we will be in a position to probably get deeper into the further minor aspect or the minute aspects of the plasma and the universal space. And the confusion which keeps coming into my head again is, so can I say plasma is biomagnetism in individual and universal magnetism in the universal space? Then I say, no, it's probably not. It is just the medium which kind of holds up everything. Am I right in saying this?
You are right. What is the title of the meeting for today?
I don't remember the exact.
Vital fluid, biomagnetism, and OJs in terms of science. Sorry, in terms of plasma.
So I put all these things together in one bundle. The SVF, the OJs, the biomagnetism, and when the biomagnetism is unutilized and existing within the body, what will happen to the biomagnetism? When the biomagnetism is in the five elements, in Akash it is pressure, in air it is sound, in fire it is heat, in water it is taste, in solid it is smell. But beyond that, if this magnetism, which is having the properties of smell, is not utilized, it goes on building further, what will happen to it? It becomes the mind. The it is able to perceive itself, the magnetism capable of understanding its own self. The biomagnetism is mind. And if this mind has more biomagnetism, then it becomes knowledge, accumulation of all experiences of the mind. And if it is further strengthened, fortified, then it becomes the buddhi. And if it is further accumulating, transforming to higher level, it becomes the siddham. And then the ahankar. So the antakaranas are also biomagnetism at higher levels. If the antakarana, all the four antakaranas are having more surplus magnetism, what will happen to it? The antakarana level, the panchabhutas are the antakaranas. And when they accumulate still further and you meditate, you concentrate the energy still further, then it becomes the people have to excuse me for using the term of which I am not certain, that is the energy beyond the antakaranas, beyond ahamkar, becomes the energy particle itself, which is different from the common energy particle which we see. We have two entities in the spiritual entity, that is physical bhuta and the sukshma bhuta. The sukshma bhuta is the magnetism of it, and stula is the stula panchabhuta. The stula panchabhuta unites to form the physical body, and the sukshma panchabhutas, they unite to form the antakaranas. So like that it may
So this
become...
plasma comes under Sukshma Bhuta.
Yeah. And if we work more, we can say whether the stula panchabhuta, the space, air, fire, water, solid, of these solid, water, and they are more physical. Space and air are more abstract. We cannot hold it. We cannot perceive it. We cannot. We don't have an idea or experience with, just like water and solid. So this is more spiritual of the Panchabhutas. And fire has the unique central place, which is the first Bhuta to be physically perceived. It can be seen by the eyes, it can be held by the a container. If you take it in your hands, it burns you. And with spiritual power, our gods seem to have it, both outside and inside our body. So all these things are more complex to be understood with more thinking and research. So these are the energy levels in the body. If the special energy particles produced by our own unused magnetism which is above the antakaranas. Then they form a super human being. He may be a deva, he may be a asura, he may be a jnani. All those things are to be thought of and sorted out. So it is all energy only. The energy which is accumulating, unused in the physical process, in the biological process, is evolving. When it is in the taste and smell, it is the centers for taste and smell are the Mooladhara and Swadhisthana. When it is the fire level, it is the Manipuraha or Anahata. When it is in the air level, it is the Anahata or the Vishuddhi level. And when it is Akash level, then it is the magnetism of at the Agya level. So the centers are also evolving within us, and everything seems to be in order, and there is no confusion anywhere. If we orient ourselves in this way and start think about it.
So how can we say with the gravity in terms of plasma, how the gravity in plasma?
The plasma is a state which has evolved from space, absolute space, or divinity. So it is the gravity is a property of absolute space. So it is present just like consciousness and mightiness, and the capability to perform, the energy. The gravity is an expression of the same. So it is at the space level where the particles responsible for plasma state also merge with the space.
So the particle can escape from plasma state, can go beyond plasma state.
They have come from the space and they go back to space. Just like energy particles come from space and they go back to space. So the consciousness or gravity or the surrounding self-compressive pressure force, all the expressions of divinity, absolute space.
So the plasma state is not the absolute space. Can we conclude that?
Plasma state has evolved from absolute space.
Okay, thank you.
Rajmohan.
வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
வாழ்க வளமுடன், Rajmohan.
You nicely explained plasma, and that is the fourth stage. We can consider SPF is a fourth stage. It is not a solid or liquid gas. Then next to the gas level, still the density is very, very less. That way we can visualize. And from there, we get the biomagnetism and light plus particles. it carries the all other materials. So plasma is a new explanation you have given very nicely actually. Science also plasma is there at the fourth stage, and we are able to understand it. Very, very nice explanation.
Thank you, Rajmohan. Now, Tarun, it is your time. I have a lot of participants in the name of Bharat Shah, Carlos, Julia, and others whom you know better. So you call them, ask for their opinion or response.
Sure, Ayya. Dr. Foti has just joined us today as our first session. So she has her own, she just dropped, unfortunately. Carlos has been...
Come and join.
No, she joined our class first time today to understand what Maharishi's exercise and everything. So I invited her to stay a little longer to see what we about this. I think she just dropped. Maybe she had to go. She's been with us since 8 a.m. It's 11 now. So, Carlos, can you comment on?
Hi, Dr. Ravina. Yes, absolutely wonderful discussion connecting this universal magnetic field to the biomagnetic field and the sexual vital fluid. And I'm really enjoying this connection with the plasma and the fifth state of matter that we're now entering with the Nobel Prizes and Einstein's Bose-Einstein condensate, and it's all clarifying. Now, one point about that plasma, I believe that the Mantak Chia, this master, sexual kung fu master, revealed to us that the sexual energy is a bioelectromagnetic. And you can see the movement of the sperm cells moving and the generation of the electromagnetic field. In Vedatiri's book, in Biomagnetism, he introduces the Trinity, the Holy Trinity, between the universal magnetism, the biomagnetism, and the electromagnetism. And so now science, coming from the quantum physics, they've discovered that there's these biophotons in all life forms, animal and vegetable. And these biophotons are highly coherent light sources within the DNA. And so that connects that Holy Trinity in with the coherent nature or structure of the fifth state of the plasma, which is coherent. Coherent being the orderliness of this non-random state of nature that is directed by this order of function, which is that consciousness. Because light and consciousness are similarly expressed in here. This is something that we find in the biophotons. They direct the communication system within the cells, but at the quantum level. So it bridges that connection between the external experiments where they do with these high temperatures and low temperature in the case of the 0 point energy, but in the body, it works directly at the normal natural state of the body's temperature. So we know that the coherent state now works at higher temperatures, not just extreme cold, the way they're doing the experiment. So it's all coming together. As a great mathematician, French mathematician, once said that we know that everything is connected, that everything is one. The question is how it's all connected. That's where all the scientific work and the philosophical work that we're doing, that's where it goes. And I love what Tarun is doing with his mathematization of the functions, the brainwave functions. And so that's something really I admire. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I think Dr. Forte is back in here. This is her day in this sessions. Like she probably seen 3-4 different forms already: exercise, meditation, some discussions with me, and now scientific world in terms of how the life force works. Dr. Forte, do you want to say something?
At this time, I prefer to listen. As this being my first time, I really just want to be able to engage and listen and learn. So I'm going to decline, but thank you.
Yep, sure. Thank you. Julia, usually you have questions, but you've been quiet today. So do you have something you want to share or ask? No, you also want to listen today, so okay. So Bharatji.
Yeah, thank you for asking me, Tarun Master and Ayya. I do not have much to say on this one. I don't have any feedback. I'm trying to constantly, always trying to listen to this and try to incorporate with my Vedantic scriptures understanding and see how I can incorporate this scientific, what we're talking about biomagnetic and other things. And constantly I try to analyze in my mind. So I do not have any feedback to it, but I'm very good. I'm good to listen to it. That's what I would say. Thank you.
But when you incorporate them in the Vedantic expression,
yes,
let us know that also.
No,
we will be interested to understand that, how it gets incorporated in the Vedanta.
In that respect, I would say that everything is one, and there is nothing except consciousness, and everything is like a projection of consciousness. And whatever we do, that is all in duality aspect of it, and we're trying to evolve ourselves from duality to non-duality, and how we can practice that non-duality information to evolve ourselves to non-duality. That is what I would say.
Nicely said. Shall we invite Dr. Swatantra Devi? I think were you present from the beginning?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, I was there. It's the same thing I've been repeating so many times. This is a little high for, I am more into the physical body and a little bit into the subtle body. But the discussions in this group is more like in the causal body and the causal energy. So according to yoga and the physical forms of it, it's more the physical energies and a little bit of the subtle energies like electromagnetism and all that. So I'm like a student trying to learn and grasp things, as Bharat said. So still there are a lot of things that I cannot connect from what you're saying. And I'm trying to connect and then grasp a little more, and then I'll see what comes out of it. But about this plasma, I have a little bit of doubt. I'm not very good. I mean, it's we are all not scientists like some of the people here. So, but my basic understanding, I don't know if it's right or wrong. Please correct me or give me some explanation. The consciousness, we know it's a static state. And according to yoga, prana is the first expression of consciousness. So that means the paramanu, what we say. I mean, I think we have to find equivalent terms for divine dust particle and life force particle and so many things. We sometimes use it in the
Life
same
force
way.
particle.
So I think I'll just finish. So I don't know what we are connecting prana with, whether divine dust particle or the life force particle, but according to this, so it is anyway, it's a subatomic particle, maybe to the n number of times subatomic. So afterwards, then these particles convert and then they come to the trinity, that is proton, neutron, and electron, isn't it? And when
Yes.
proton and neutron and electrons are equal, and when they form a center with proton and neutron, with the electrons orbiting in the periphery, it becomes an atom. And that becomes a stable atom. And but when the electrons are not equal to the protons, then it becomes an unstable electron. So that is positively charged or negatively charged, and they are called ionized. And it is that state is the plasma state. So that means plasma is, I think, many number of times down the line from consciousness. And of course, then it becomes these charges only when the charges move from the one atom to another or whatever it is. Then that is called the movement of that electron is called electricity. And when electricity in motion, when it's a current, then it creates a magnetic field at right angles to its flow. So that is how magnetism comes in. That's how I understand it in a little bit of a scientific form. And but how to connect this plasma with the physical body or SVF, I'm still not very clear, because plasma is it's sort of in the higher level, and when it comes to the body, it is more physical, because we have the physical particles and the chemical particles. Of course, they contain all these things. The prana is there in everything. So instead of saying plasma, we might as well say it's the prana that is present, or the electrons, they are present, and these electrons give rise to electricity and magnetism. So that way we can connect also, but I don't connect how the plasma is the sexual vital fluid. I'm not very clear about that. And the Panchabhutas, you said that's the right thing, but the Sukshma Panchabhutas and the Sthula Panchabhutas, I think I have already given a presentation on Panchabhutas. So if you want, next time I can talk a little bit about the formation of Panchabhutas and the process of Panchikaranam. So that, and how these chemicals are involved in these Panchabhutas. That if you want, I can talk a little later. But plasma, yes. I'm still not very confident. Valga Valamudan.
The spiritual systems are different, just like religions, depending upon the person who propagates it, who pronounces it. It is different. The prana is also known as divine cosmic energy. And the prana is energy, and the plasma is energy. The sexual vital fluid is energy. And I think these are all in the same level of existence. They are energies and identified from the angle from which you see it. And now what we are doing is without much of ahamkar, we come together to accept the equal terms and broaden, iron out the differences and widen the spiritual understanding. That is what is trying to get into that state, I suppose.
Just to take a leaf out of what the earlier, I forget the name of that, forget the name of the person. Anyway, the point is, the way I have tried to assimilate this information and put it together, which I brought up earlier, just a few minutes earlier also, is I just think that in the individual human being, the plasma is like a continuous medium which holds it together, and it's basic. Of course, it's all form of energy. And when I try to find an equivalent or a synonymous situation in the universal space, I think plasma is, only from and just to understand, is kind of holding the whole universe together. Of course, it is an energy form. That was one thought which is slowly percolating within me. And the second thing is, when we talk of, this earlier person was mentioning about physical, causal, and astral body. I felt when we talk of plasma, we are probably more related to the astral side of things. Of course, everything is whole, no doubt, but just for our understanding and articulating perspective, I felt it was probably more related to the astral side of it. And the third thing, which was very wonderfully stated, is we have just too many nomenclatures and too many verbiologies and too many definitions for a similar thing. I think if we can have just say, okay, these are 10 or 11 verbiages or definitions for different things we refer to, I think that might bring all of us on a similar platform, and then we can. All our energies can come together to see, okay, what we are trying to achieve next. Just a thought. Thank you.
Exactly what we are attempting to. And you have all the time been expressing the same view. Now, somebody has to do it. Now, I think, Mr. Prasad, you can do it. You have been listening to everything. I think you can listen again and you put all these equivalent terms together and give an acceptable terminology for it, so that term will imply all these things and confusion will go off. I think you can do it. You are a strong observer, and at the same time, you don't want to give up what you have already known. So if you take up this job, then that will be solved easily, I think.
No, fair enough.
Thank you.
No, fair enough. I think I'm realizing that I'm coming slowly to that maturity level. But I don't want to make excuses, but I need some volunteers. I'm more a good guidance person and taskmaster.
You take the help of Tarun and Vijay Lakshmi to do that. They will be helping. Are you ready, Tarun?
Yes, sir, yeah. I will be able to help out. Yeah, I know Prasad very well.
Prasad, so. Yeah. So that will be a wonderful job.
We'll keep it simple, Tarun. What we will do is, just keep it to 1 to 3 pages and just 2 to 3 volunteers without becoming person and so on. 2 to 3 volunteers who can come up at their own level, and of course I will also add on to it. You can add on, Vijay can add on, and so Vijay Lakshmi can add on, and then we can come to a thing, because right now
we will have it presented in the meeting and get the consensus opinion and say we will give a recommendation. This name, this term includes all these basic forces. Like that. Okay, now it is time for Vijay Lakshmi, isn't it, Tarun?
Okay, word all.
So yeah, word all. Then we're almost at the time. Yeah, thank you.
MVR Ayya, thank you so much, Ayya. As Sudandra Devi said, as these conversations are going in the causal level, because of definitely MVR Ayya's knowledge and this intuitive power And we are all definitely knowing and appreciating that this knowledge is in the greater level, which is helping this R&D into the higher level. And he is, of course, Rishi's R&D director with the WCSC. So this is definitely in the higher form because of MVR Ayya. We all wanted to thank you for that. And this conversation of plasma is making us to think in the greater level, to the greater knowledge, all because of you. And we wanted to continue this to get into the conclusion of everything with more intuitive knowledge. So we are trying to make Ayya to think in these levels. That's all we are doing. So thank you so much, Ayya. This will conclude our session with world blessings. May the world